Right, so it was inevitable that I would one day make a video about Disney Plus. And I don't know why I've been putting this off, but there's a lot to say. So I don't know how much I'm going to pack into this video or how long I'm going to go on this, but there's a few things I'd like to touch on with the streaming service Disney Plus, which launched last year, I think, in America, and then didn't come to the UK until March of 2020, which was like really almost conspicuously timed with the lockdown of the country, with the coronavirus pandemic, and for me personally, also it coincided pretty much exactly with me going into self-isolation because of my asthma. I was on the high-risk list, and so I stayed home for 12 weeks, just under 12 weeks. And it wasn't a fun time. Like, it wasn't. You would think, like, oh, God, if I could just have, like, 3 months off work, how amazing would that be? And, there was a few plus sides, but mainly cons. It just wasn't. It was a miserable time, to be honest. Anyway, Disney Plus launched, and so I just kept putting off making a video about it, and there was so much I wanted to say about it. So let's just get into it. So the main thing that I was interested in with Disney Plus right off the bat, two main things, was the Last Jedi score-only version. That was something that was on the American Disney Plus, and it's basically The Last Jedi with just the isolated soundtrack score, and I really wanted to watch it as a kind of a silent film experiment. And so I was really excited, and so when Disney Plus launched over here, me and Connie signed up straight away. $5.99 a month is a pretty good price for what they have on there, and I went straight to The Last Jedi in the extra section, and they didn't have it. They didn't have it, and I was gutted about that. And I think maybe a month or two later, I bought the big Skywalker Saga box set, which is just off screen, but it is underneath a pile of Blu-rays, so I won't attempt to show it in the video. You've seen it before, and that has the score-only version. So I eventually got what I wanted. But the second thing that I was really interested in Disney Plus for was the acquisition of 20th Century Fox, and by extension of that, The Simpsons, which was launched in a cropped, widescreen, bastardized fashion. Abysmal. It really was. And Connie took to putting the old Simpsons on like all the time, like at night when she went to bed, and I was just like, ugh, I can't even look at it. Like, it's cropped, it looks awful. They've cut out sight gags. There's been lots of articles about it and people getting up in arms about the whole the changing of the aspect ratio to fit, the modern kind of widescreen sensibilities of TV viewers around the world, and most people, obviously don't give a shit about it, but it was just this, like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, this classic animation, this amazing TV show, you can argue about whether it went off the rails a bit 5, 10, 15 years ago, but, the classic Simpsons stuff, it just, and that's what we're talking about, because, obviously the new Simpsons is all widescreen and it's made to fit that standard anyway. But the original, Simpsons for like the first, I think 19 seasons were in 4:3, and so you're losing information, and it doesn't look right to me. So Disney Plus eventually, after like months of people ragging on about it, said that, okay, in May we're going to start rolling out the original episodes. And so it took a while, but eventually we now have the option to turn off the widescreen, which is fantastic. I haven't really taken advantage of it, to be completely honest, but knowing that they're all there at the click of a button is really nice. I do have a lot of my old DVD sets, and I will hold on to those because of the extras and everything. But it's nice to have all that stuff in the same place. Now, it was a tricky thing because, I have like my Disney collection, and I was going to grab some then, but they're right behind my chair. I can't pick them out. So I feel this compulsion to kind of grab Blu-rays that are kind of, hey, we're going to talk about this film, But Disney was an interesting one because I've been trying to collect those. I think I have about 20 of the Disney classics. I was intrigued by the big Disney Classics box set until I found out that it had the UK list of the 50 classics, which doesn't include other films from the US canon, which is really strange to me, but also that some of the films were not in Blu-ray, they're in DVD. So I just forget it. I'm not going to spend all this money on a big box set that isn't all HD and doesn't really have everything. So that was weird. But with Disney Plus, it has all the animated classics and everything, and so I thought, well, that's a good way to watch them. I'll hold on to my Blu-rays for the extras, and if I do see some of the ones I don't have cheap, I will buy them for the extras and to have that physical copy. In fact, one film that me and Connie watched during lockdown was Lilo and Stitch, which I'd never seen before, and I was actually going to make a video about it. I was going to do an episode of Conquering My Collection. But the thing was, I waited so long that I honestly couldn't tell you a whole lot about this film. So I have Lilo and Stitch here. Just a nice kind of slipcover that's been completely destroyed on the corner there. So this was a film that I'd heard a lot about, but had never seen it, and I really, really enjoyed it. But, because I had the Blu-ray, I'm watching it on the Blu-ray, not on Disney Plus. So that was kind of, that's kind of the methodology I use in approaching these things, is that if I really want to sit down and enjoy one, and I have it on Blu-ray, then it's the Blu-ray every time. But, Disney Plus, the quality is great, it really does look good, and they do have a lot of 4K stuff. So when we got the 4K TV, even though we've had our woes with that, we watched WALL-E in 4K, and that looked really good. Like, I really thought that film looked great. And the first time I really was, kind of blown away by 4K was watching a bit of Moana in 4K on Disney Plus. There's a sequence, I think I've talked about this before, there's a sequence where her face goes down in the sand, and she gets up, and her hair's all matted with sand, and it looks incredible. And then just the waves and everything. The only thing is that on Disney Plus, its HDR is enforced. There's no way to watch stuff without HDR. So if it's a particular film, it'll be difficult with the darkness, because our TV can't. With my 4K Blu-ray player, I can manually adjust the brightness, but on the TV, no dice. And so it's kind of tricky with the 4K stuff on Disney Plus. Anyway. So it has all the Disney animated classics, and the first thing I did was I thought, okay, I'm going to go through all the movies they have on Disney Plus, from like obviously the Disney stuff, but like other kind of random films that Disney had made over the years, live action movies I'd never seen, and animated stuff. I went through all of the movies in the movie section. I spent about 4 or 5 hours adding all the stuff I wanted to watch onto a watch list, which was really fun. I was like, okay, I was looking at every film, reading the synopsis, seeing who was in it. It was really kind of a fun experience to kind of get that watch list kind of nice and packed and meaty. And then at the end of it, I looked at it and I was just flicking through, and I was like, oh, there's only like 50 films on this watch list, and I've been doing this for hours. And I realized I'd been going through it alphabetically, and all I had on my watch list was like from Z to about T. And I thought, oh, there's a limit to your watch list. You can only put 50 things on there. So I spent all that time for nothing. So then what I had to do, this is how weird I am, I made about 5 separate accounts. Like, not accounts, but like user accounts. So, you'll pay for the same thing. I'm not like paying for a new account or anything, but, there's the Luke account, there's the Connie account, and then there's just like watch list number 1, 2, whatever, so I could get everything on there. But then I was looking for like, just a section on the app where it's like, here's all the Disney animated classics from Snow White to Moana or whatever, or Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet, whatever that film was called. And it just wasn't there. There was no like chronological section. It was just like Disney movies, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Frozen. And I'm like, I want a nice, neat-looking chronological list. So I made another user account called Disney from 1938 or 37 to 2010 or something like that. And then I made like Disney 2010 to 2018, so because there was like more than 50 films. But it is actually nice just to have that watch list with all the nice posters in a nice chronological order. Is it much to ask? And I'm not sure if I did it for anything else. I think it was just the Disney animated. Yeah, it was just the Disney animated classics. And then I actually made a separate watch list for documentaries, because there's a lot of National Geographic stuff. I've watched a few things on there. There was a fascinating documentary about Easter Island. Never really knew anything about it, and it's a gripping, captivating story. Really well done documentary, but the story itself about how like millions of trees they've just gone. Like it's kind of a mystery as to what exactly happened with the people who lived on that island, and then like the actual Easter Island statues themselves. It's just fascinating insights. There's a lot of cool stuff to dig into there for sure. But movie-wise, some things that I've watched and really enjoyed on there are mainly just going back to things that I watched when I was a kid. The film Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was a big one, and that was when I first started getting the teeth problems, and I was really down. And watching that film and the sequel, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, that was a real boost to just like my comfort level at the time, because at the time, a piece of my tooth had fallen out, a chip on the front. And there was no timeline on going back to the dentist at all, so I was really stressing out about it. Luckily, it hasn't quickly deteriorated or anything, but I was just super down, and watching films like that, it was a really nice comfort blanket. And I'd seen Honey, I Shrunk the Kids when I was really young, like the first house I remember living in, so super young. Couldn't have been like older than And I was like 96 I moved, so I couldn't have been older than 8, but I have a feeling I watched that when I was like 4 or 5 years old. I just have a vague memory of kids with like the grass that's really tall, and that they're in the garden, and then the shot of the kind of the what do you call it, like the Cheerios in the cereal bowl, and the kids inside the Cheerio kind of thing. That's all I remembered. So it was really fun to see that, and to see Lucy from Twin Peaks pop up for like 2 seconds. It was a really fun film. Actually, it held up a lot more than I thought it would. I love Rick Moranis, and it was a good time. I really enjoyed that film. And then we watched Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, which I had a lot more memory of. I remember renting that when I was a bit older. So yeah, so that was one I'd seen a bit more, and that's a really good film, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Like the way that they did the effects on the kid, like you can tell they've done a lot of things of using a big actor in a suit, and then like the different camera effects. It's a really good film, like with the special effects for the time, and I actually really enjoyed that film a lot. And I have also seen Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, which, looking on Disney Plus, I now realize was like a direct-to-video sequel, because it's like in 4:3 and it's not shot on film, it doesn't look like. So I haven't quite ventured into that one yet. But seeing those first, and they looked really good on Disney Plus as well. So it's like those are films I would like to have on Blu-ray in nice quality, but they look really good on Disney Plus, so I'm not in any rush to get them. Kind of is what it is. But with the new film coming, I don't know, maybe if they release some kind of box set with some extras, I'd probably be interested in picking that up. Another one was Cool Runnings. Man, I loved that film when I was a kid, and that was real. Again, at 5, 6. It was when I first started primary school. I loved that film, and one of my friends used to bring like a lucky egg into school, and all I really remembered was like a lucky egg, and John Candy being in it, and I remembered the scene on the ice rink when they get to is it Canada they go to? I forget the actual. I think it was Canada, but when they get to like the country where they're doing the bobsled Olympics, I remember like that the kind of the grey and silver of that ice rink and that building that they first go into when the Olympics are starting, but I didn't remember much else about it, and so it was kind of a nice surprise to revisit it. And I love going back to films I haven't seen since I was a kid like that, but it was really interesting how things were re kind of what's the term. Right, my brain's not working right tonight when I'm making some of these videos. My brain was kind of becoming reacquainted with some of the moments, and kind of like memories were unlocking. And as the film was going on, I was like, oh wait, there's that. I remember that scene's coming up. But the main one was when the two guys are in I think it's in the bathroom, and he's like, look in the mirror, and he's like, what do you see? And he's like, I see pride, I see power, I see a badass mother who's not going to take any crap from anybody. And as soon as he was saying that, I felt myself finishing the sentence in my head, and I was like, wow, that was a quote that I've held on to for like 20 plus years, but I've never purchased it. I've never like gone back to it until this very moment, when it just like all came flooding back to me. It's a great moment in the film, and I'd forgotten the ending. I had a feeling they crashed, but then I thought, well, because we were getting to like the final kind of moment of this film, and I'm assuming you've seen it. I'm not really reviewing it or anything, and I'm thinking like, what? Well, if they crash, because I'm sure they crashed. I remember them crashing. So this is the final, and they'll lose. So how does the film end? Because surely it can't end with them not winning the Olympics, right? Because I couldn't really remember. And the way it ended, they do crash and they don't win, and then I'm all getting choked up thinking about it. Like, this is like really weird, but like Cool Runnings. I never expected this. They get up and they put the bobsled on top of their shoulders and they walk to the fucking finish line. Oh my god, what a fucking amazing ending that brought tears to my eyes. So powerful. A true story as well. And I was reading about the true story afterwards, and the film's very embellished. Like they've really kind of fiddled with things to make it more dramatic. Apparently, the actual story of those guys from Jamaica who went there to go in the Olympics, they were very much embraced by the community and stuff, and people were even helping them to get the bobsled they needed and everything. So that was like, they clearly kind of twisted things for the movie, but it made for a great story, and that ending was so powerful. Oh, loved it. Just got me right in the chest. It was just a really great experience to revisit that film. And there's many others that I haven't seen since I was a kid that are on my watch list that I haven't got to yet. So I haven't really made full advantage of it or anything. Another great thing that's on there is the Star Wars documentary Empire of Dreams, which I have the DVD of because it's just like, it's essential. If you're a Star Wars fan, the Empire of Dreams documentary is like a 2.5-hour making of the entire original trilogy. It's not super in-depth, but it covers like the whole phenomenon from start to finish. And it's fantastic. But on Disney Plus, they have it as its own movie, as its own feature, which I think is excellent. Like, that's such a great supplement to have when it's presented as its own feature, as it should be. And I'm pretty sure it actually is in high definition. It was made in like 2004. I'm assuming it can't have been beyond that because it was on the 2004 DVD set. But it looks better quality than the DVD, which is really interesting. At least at a glance, I flicked through some of it. I might be wrong, remembering it incorrectly. I don't know, or it could be upscaled. I'm really not too sure. So it really is good to see a lot of special features on there. That many films do have special features. The Star Wars ones, I mean, they weren't fucking around. Like, The Rise of Skywalker came out and it had everything. It had like the 2+ hour making of documentary, all of the featurettes, the digital exclusive featurettes. I mean, you're getting more on Disney Plus than you are on the actual physical Blu-ray release, which I don't know how I feel about that, but you know, they were really bringing it. And then you have The Mandalorian, which, you know, well, unashamedly pirated as soon as it came out. There was no way we're going to wait 6 fucking months to watch that show. I'm sorry, but we'll gladly pay for Disney Plus to watch the second season. So I haven't made a video about The Mandalorian, but I really did love that show, as most people around the world did. So there's a lot of good stuff happening on Disney Plus, and they've been adding things. And Hamilton came out, which a lot of my friends have watched. I'm intrigued by that, but I haven't carved out like the 2.5 hours to watch it yet. And finally, I'll end with this. This is like a revelation to me. There was a new docu-series that just came out a month or two ago called Into the Unknown, The Making of Frozen 2. Now, I really liked Frozen, but I didn't love it, you know. I actually love the music more than the film. I even love Let It Go. You know, it's kind of a cliche, but I think it's a great song. It got overplayed, to be sure, but it's a great song. So when the second movie came around, I wasn't really that hyped up about it, but I loved Frozen 2 as a really good film. I much prefer it to the first one. And so, you know, when it came out on Blu-ray, I wasn't really going to pick it up straight away or anything like that. It wasn't really on my radar. Even when it came to Disney Plus, like, Connie was really excited about revisiting it, but I just wasn't that fussed. But then this documentary series came out. I thought, oh, okay, well, we'll just watch some of this. I think it's like a six part documentary. So it's like maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours long. This whole docu-series about the making. What it is it focuses on the last year of production. So you start with them saying, right, we're a year out from release, and this is our process of making the film. We've decided to document it. And then at the end, they release the movie, and all is well, all that kind of stuff. But holy fuck, this documentary series is perhaps one of the best making of documentaries of a film I've seen in years. You know, as much as I love The Last Jedi, and I think that film has a great making of documentary, I think that this one is even better because it goes into such detail, but it's really honest. Not entirely honest. There is a moment where, like, the producer of the film was like, right, no cameras today while we have this meeting, you know, which is very ominous and stuff, but for the most part, this really goes into the kind of nitty-gritty of making a movie like this, and it was fascinating. Like, yeah, we'd get the directors and then, you know, Jennifer Lee, I think, and Chris Buck. They're talking about their process of making the film and everything, and you get like the creative insight from the couple who write the music for the film, and then the voice actors occasionally, and then the animators, the designers, the creators, all the people who make these films happen. But then you just get like a random animator who's making this one shot, and you follow their journey of like getting the shot approved by the directors and having to change things, and then you get like a whole section of the documentary where they're working on cutting things out of the film, and it's like, right, this is the day where we're going to announce what shots we're losing and what scenes are being removed from the film, and then you just cut to an animator who's like, yep, everything I've been working on the past 3 months got cut today, so back to square one. And it's heartbreaking, and they leave that stuff in, you know, and it's so great because it shows you what it's like to make a movie, and it doesn't shy away from the points where it goes wrong. You know, there's even like kind of tense moments where the directors are talking to the couple who write the music, and they're just like, yeah, the song just isn't really working, and they're like, wow, tell us how you really feel, you know, and there's a real sense of like, it just isn't going well. The whole sequence at Atahalan, I believe, is the place where Elsa goes, like about halfway through the movie, maybe towards the end. That whole sequence they were working on so hard, and it just wasn't clicking, and they're just like, what do we do? And then they're just like, okay, we got a new idea, but we're going to have to basically rework the entire sequence, and we're like 6 months away from release. I was stunned that one of the big set piece moments of the film wasn't even designed, or like you have like the people who design like the areas or like the locations and stuff, the settings, and kind of, you know, like building up the icebergs and everything, and they're like, yeah, we we need to design this from the ground up really quickly. We don't know how we're going to do this. And what really struck me was that if this was a Star Wars movie, and the same things were happening, the fan community would be livid. They'd be kicking off. They wouldn't know whether to shit or wind their watch. They'd be like, I can't believe that they hadn't got this set piece done 6 months before the film. They did reshoots. Like, what a shit show. And it's just like, no, this is how a big budget movie gets made. They're constantly reassessing. They're constantly trying to find out exactly where the problems are in the film so that they can address them. And that is maybe the drawbacks of working and making art to a deadline. But also I think that it can push people to bring out the brilliance at kind of a really stressful moment in time. And so you look at the finished film Frozen 2, and it doesn't feel like that set piece in the film doesn't, the moment where she sings, what's the song? It's not Into the Unknown, it's Show Yourself. That whole Show Yourself sequence, I would never would have clocked that was something that they kind of spun together in the last 6 months of production on a film that they spent years making. But it just goes to show you that what they can really pull off. And, it shows you moments where they're stressed out and they're not sure whether it's going well or not. It doesn't dwell on it all the time, but it's really quite open and honest. And then you have the Rise of Skywalker documentary, which is very much just like, it was just so great. We had such a good time. Like, we put all this effort into the practical effects. I mean, it just looks great. Like, it's just brilliant. It's just such a legacy, and that's it for 2 hours. I mean, there's no way you look at a film like The Rise of Skywalker and say that production went completely smoothly. I love the film, but you can tell that they were shitting the bed making that film, and God, it would have been fascinating to see it. And you see a little bit of that in the Last Jedi documentary, which stands out among the other ones in being a little bit more open and honest and transparent. But there's just great stories to be told on the sets of making movies, and with this Frozen 2 one, it's not a film that is like a favorite of mine or anything, but the behind the scenes journey was utterly fascinating. And so, if this is the way Disney Plus is going, like that. And actually, I will say another thing. There's another behind the scenes documentary series called I think it's called Disney Gallery: The Mandalorian. So I thought they were going to continue that, and so the Frozen 2 one would be called Disney Gallery Frozen 2. But the Frozen 2 documentary seems like a proper production that they put together, and they realized that they were following up, one of the biggest animated movies of all time, and they wanted to document what that was like under the pressure. That's another thing they go into, is kind of the feeling of needing to deliver with Frozen 2, where they didn't really have that with the first movie. It's really a fucking great documentary. I highly recommend it. It's great. It's so well made, even if you don't love the film. I think it's a fascinating insight into the movie. Excuse me for the suppressed burp. The Mandalorian behind the scenes, I was really excited for that, and it's pretty good. I enjoyed it, but it's very self-congratulatory. What's that? How do you say that? Self-congratulatory. I think that's how you say it. I'll leave that one in. You fucking know it for free. So yeah, but it's like, it's kind of very, patting each other on the back, and it's like a lot of roundtable discussions. And even the first episode of that Mandalorian behind the scenes, you have like Favreau and everyone all sitting around, and the directors of all the episodes, and someone will say something that's very mildly amusing, and they'll be like, they'll be laughing so uproariously about every little slightly humorous comment, and it just seemed like arse licking the whole way around. Me and Connie were like, the fuck they laughing at? It was really strange, and I just thought this is going to be a tough watch. But as you go through the series, that kind of stuff kind of quietened down a little bit. I'm telling you, maybe I'm over exaggerating it from memory, but it just seemed so kind of weirdly. I don't know. Everyone's really trying to impress each other or trying to be really nice to each other. The laughing was really weird in that first episode. There is some good behind the scenes stuff in that, and I really loved the stuff about the volume, the big kind of thing that the digital set that they made. Fascinating stuff, but a lot of it is just people sat around a table just talking about how good the stuff that they did was, and how great it is. There's some nice moments, like Dave Filoni kind of talking about why the Phantom Menace works as well as it does, and a lot of people were like mind blown, and it's kind of, I kind of had that own thing anyway. It just seemed like the logical way to interpret that film. But, it was nice to see that it kind of reconfigured the way a lot of people look at the prequels, which was nice. And overall, it was a really good, behind the scenes look. But it was definitely on that kind of side of like, corporate kind of, this was such a great experience. Whereas the Frozen 2 one was a lot more real and raw, and I loved that about it. And so you know, if I had my way, I would much rather have the real, raw, honest behind the scenes of Star Wars, and I'd be much happier with the shiny Frozen 2 documentary where everything was great. But you know, I'll take what I can get. And but I actually looked up the Frozen 2 Blu-ray, and it has hardly anything. So that's another thing where you think, well, are extras going to be moving towards, you know, streaming and not on disc, which is really strange. So you wonder what's going to happen with that. And I know just the way things are these days. I mean, who knows? Maybe not to speak ill of anyone, but who maybe there's something that comes out about, you know, someone who worked on Frozen 2 did something bad, and then that whole series gets removed and quietly shoved under the carpet, and you can never see it again, you know, because it's not a physical release. And so that Frozen 2 documentary I would love to own on the Blu-ray disc, but you know, just it's not something that I think with that one, that was a very specific thing they decided to make. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of that 3+ hour docu-series, really insightful, honest, moving forward. I'd hope, but you know, I think that was kind of a one-off where, again, you really got to think about the fact they were following up one of the biggest animated films of all time, and they decided to document that, and I'm glad that they did. So anything else with Disney Plus that I can think? I knew this was going to be a long one, but yeah, so I've enjoyed. One thing I started to do was I started watching the early Disney cartoons, like the shorts. So I started with like Steamboat Willie. You know, this felt like a classic I needed to see. And I was working through them chronologically, really enjoying it. I thought I could make some videos about this. This is really fascinating early animation. And then I looked up on Wikipedia, like all the Disney shorts, and there's so many they don't have on there. There's like the Three Little Pigs was another one that I watched and really enjoyed. Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? I was like, oh, that's where it came from. But I was almost like, why isn't everything on there? But you know, give it time, and I'd like to think that a lot of the archives will eventually go up on there, and they've got so much to draw from. The one thing I'm kind of a bit down about is the fact that they have so much access to the 20th Century Fox library, but they won't put anything on there that is like more than a 12A, because it is kind of like a kid-friendly service. I understand that, but I mean, there's stuff like, you know, the Alien movies. I mean, it's weird because I already own them on Blu-ray, but the thing is, in our bedroom we have Disney Plus through the Skybox, and so it's really convenient to just throw stuff on while I'm going to sleep. Whereas like going into the collection and getting the discs out and everything, it's fine, but it's like I'm not doing it to watch the movie. I'm doing it to just put on while I fall asleep, which is something I do. I put movies on while I'm going to sleep. But yeah, I feel like there's more they could draw on, but I understand why they're not doing it for the you know, it's more of a family friendly product, and I understand that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I've enjoyed it. They're debuting new movies on there. I can't say I've watched any of them. There was the Artemis Fowl film that people just shat on, and so I kind of didn't watch it. But I think that it's a really promising service. I think the $5.99 price point is fantastic for what you get. And then there's the Marvel movies as well, and I was a little bit, again, flabbergasted they didn't have like a Marvel Cinematic Universe chronological section. I wasn't about to make one. I own most of them on Blu-ray anyway, but yeah, there's quite a varied amount of stuff there. You know, Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, Disney Classics, National Geographic, Simpsons. You know, there's a lot of key things that they touch on that makes it for a pretty robust and varied, you know, selection of content. But there's a lot of films on there I haven't seen, like classics from the 90s, or not classics, but like, you know, films I feel like I should have watched as a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, like the Mighty Ducks movies that my friend was like borderline offended that I hadn't seen. Yeah, so there's quite a few things on there. Maybe I could show you my watch list at some point, and you could tell me some of the films I should prioritize. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Disney Plus so far has been a big thumbs up for me. I don't use it very much, I will say. But you know, there's a few things that they have in America that I wish we had here. One of them is The Straight Story, which is a David Lynch movie I've never seen, but they only have it on the American Disney Plus. So that's kind of a shame, because that film doesn't really have like a UK Blu-ray release, I don't think. But you occasionally see very like odd things pop up on there, like The Straight Story that you realize was owned by Disney and so on. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Leave your comments down below how you found Disney Plus. I know a lot of people watching this will either have it or have had it. And we definitely did kind of decide to give it the trial period to have a look, and it was obvious as soon as we signed up that there was a lot of stuff on here that was definitely worth looking at, and you know, lots of new content they're producing. We loved the Jeff Goldblum series. We only watched the first episode, but I mean, hilarious. I mean, just set Goldblum off with a camera and gold will come back to you, and the first episode was certainly certainly paid off that. But anyway, so there's lots of stuff on Disney Plus. But let me know down below what you've been enjoying on Disney Plus, if you recommend anything on Disney Plus in particular. And I have noticed now that the Last Jedi score only version has now been added to the bonus features section of the Last Jedi, which is pretty cool. One thing I think they should add that I don't think they will, but I really think they should. Oh, where is it? It should be right there where my hand is, but it's not. That's strange. I was where? Oh, I pushed it in. I pushed it in. It's at the back of the shelf. This. Give us the Ewok movies. I'm being completely unironic when I say this. I would love to see these in high definition, please. Caravan of Courage and The Battle for Endor. We find. Yes, give us the Ewok movies, please, because I would love to see Wilford Brimley in all of his high-definition glory fighting alien monsters in a Star Wars movie. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hang on a second. Alright. I was just about to go and take this video off the memory card and start sorting all that stuff out. Literally just pulled up Twitter, and the Digital Bits is announcing, well not announcing, but they're reporting on a rumor that Disney Plus is considering having an adult-only section of their service with a PIN code to access it, which would include certain movies like Deadpool, Logan, Aliens, Die Hard, etc. Well, holy shit, there you go. I don't know any more information. I haven't even clicked on the article yet, but it's from a reputable source, and so fuck, there you go. I was just talking about it, and it's apparently in the works, and I think that is something they should do. Just give it a quick PIN code access. I think that's a good idea. And there's a lot more films, and that way they're going to tie in more of the adult, not fan base, but demographic, I guess. I don't know, because films like Die Hard and Deadpool and things that they own and can use, and the Alien franchise, I think, is something that they could very much kind of draw from and would bring in a lot of viewers. Anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to mention that because that was a pretty interesting moment of serendipity there. I literally just loaded up Twitter. That was the first thing that came up. Anyway, thanks for watching again. I'll see you in the next one again.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans and calling into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you.